How many people are millionaires without counting their home? Why do 24 million American millionaires often feel broke despite their impressive net worth? While social media celebrates people hitting the $1 million milestone, the shocking reality is that only 9 million of these millionaires can actually access $1 million when they need it. The rest are wealthy on paper, but cash poor in practice. Here's what most financial advice won't tell you. Having a high net worth doesn't automatically mean you have financial freedom. You can own $1 million home and still worry about paying monthly bills, or have impressive assets but struggle with unexpected expenses. Over the next few minutes, I'll reveal 7 principles that explain why asset liquidity matters more than total net worth for real financial security. The 4th principle shows why retirees with $1 million homes often live on surprisingly tight budgets. If you want to understand accessible wealth versus paper wealth, subscribe and comment liquid freedom below. But that's just the beginning. What I'm about to reveal shows why the treasure chest paradox explains the difference between looking wealthy and having actual spending power. 1. Liquid versus illiquid asset distinction. Here's something that confuses a lot of people about wealth. You can be a millionaire on paper and still feel broke when you actually need money. It's like having a treasure chest full of gold that you can't open when the bills are due. You've probably felt this frustration yourself. Maybe you own a house worth $400,000, but when your car breaks down or you face a medical emergency, you can't exactly hand the mechanic a piece of your kitchen. Your wealth exists, but it's locked away where you can't easily reach it. Let me tell you about a pirate captain who faced this exact problem. He'd spent years accumulating an enormous treasure chest filled with gold, jewels, and precious artifacts. His crew was impressed. Their captain was clearly the wealthiest pirate on the seas. But here's where things got interesting. The treasure chest was so valuable and heavy that it required elaborate security procedures to access. Multiple keys, complex locks, and careful planning just to get a few coins out. Meanwhile, the captain needed money for daily operations, paying crew wages, buying supplies, bribing port officials. But his massive treasure chest couldn't help with these immediate needs. He had to maintain a separate stash of accessible coins for daily expenses, even though it looked small compared to his impressive locked treasure. Your home equity works exactly the same way. That $200,000 in home equity is real wealth, but accessing it requires selling your house, refinancing, or taking out a home equity loan. Each option involves time, fees, paperwork, and often debt. When you need $5,000 for an emergency, you can't just withdraw it from your house like you can from a savings account. Here's what you can do right now. Calculate how much of your net worth you could actually access within 30 days without taking on debt or selling major assets. This number might be smaller than you think, and that's important information for planning. The shift you need to make is understanding that both types of wealth matter. Your house provides stability and potential long-term growth, while liquid savings give you flexibility and peace of mind. You don't need to choose between them. You need both. Think of accessible money as your daily operating fund and illiquid assets as your long-term wealth foundation. 24M net worth versus 9M liquid millionaires. Here's a statistic that might shock you. 24 million Americans are technically millionaires, but only about 9 million of them can actually access $1 million when they need it. That's a huge gap that reveals something important about how we measure wealth. Most people hear millionaire and picture someone who's financially free, able to write big checks and handle any expense without stress. But the reality is way more complicated than that. Being worth $1 million on paper doesn't automatically mean you've got $1 million you can actually use. Let me tell you about 2 farmers who dealt with their harvest in completely different ways. The grain silo owner accumulated massive stores of wheat and corn in huge storage facilities. His inventory was worth a fortune, and everyone in the region knew he was the wealthiest farmer around. Impressive silos dotted his property, representing years of successful harvests. But here's the problem. When market opportunities came up or when he needed cash for daily operations, he couldn't easily access his wealth. Converting grain to money required finding buyers, negotiating prices, arranging transportation, and waiting for payment. His wealth was real, but it wasn't readily available. The market vendor took a different approach. He kept smaller, more manageable stores that he could quickly convert to cash at weekly markets. His operation looked less impressive, but when opportunities arose or emergencies hit, he could respond immediately with actual money in hand. This is exactly what's happening with American millionaires. That 24 million number includes everyone whose assets minus debts equal $1 million or more. But most of that wealth is tied up in homes, retirement accounts, and other assets that can't be quickly converted to cash without significant costs or penalties. Here's something you can do right now. Look at your own financial picture and separate your net worth into two categories: accessible within 30 days and everything else. This exercise will show you where you really stand when it comes to financial flexibility. The mindset shift you need is this: there's nothing wrong with having wealth tied up in illiquid assets like your home. But don't mistake paper wealth for spending power. Understanding the difference helps you plan better and avoid the trap of feeling rich on paper while struggling with actual cash flow. Both types of wealth matter, but they serve different purposes in your financial life. 3. Asset-rich, cash-poor retirees. Here's a reality that hits a lot of retirees like a brick wall. You can own $1 million home and still worry about paying your monthly bills. It sounds impossible, but it's actually pretty common, having impressive wealth on paper while living on a tight budget day to day. Picture this scenario. You're 65, you've paid off your $800,000 house, and you've got about $200,000 in savings. Congratulations, you're officially a millionaire. But here's the problem. Your property taxes are $12,000 a year. Insurance is $3,000. Maintenance and repairs average $8,000 annually, and you still need money for food, healthcare, and everything else. That $200,000 in savings has to cover a lot of expenses, and it's shrinking every month. Let me tell you about a medieval lord who found himself in a similar situation. He owned a magnificent castle worth a fortune. Impressive towers, beautiful grounds, the envy of every nobleman in the region. But here's what people didn't see. Maintaining that castle consumed almost all of his income. Between staff wages, repairs, taxes to the king, and daily operations, he was living on a surprisingly tight budget despite his obvious wealth. Meanwhile, a mobile merchant with much more modest assets traveled from town to town with goods that generated steady income. His total wealth was smaller, but his cash flow was reliable and flexible. When opportunities arose or unexpected expenses hit, he could respond immediately without major life changes. This is the beautiful prison that many retirees find themselves in. Their home is their largest asset, but they can't pay for groceries or medical bills with square footage. Accessing that wealth means selling the home they love, downsizing to something smaller, or taking on debt through reverse mortgages or home equity loans. Here's something practical you can do. If you're approaching retirement, calculate your expected monthly expenses and compare them to your expected monthly income from all sources except your home. This tells you whether your house is going to be a comfortable asset or a financial burden. The mindset shift you need is this: a house can be a wonderful place to live and a decent long-term investment, but it shouldn't be your primary retirement plan. Real financial freedom in retirement comes from having enough accessible income to cover your monthly expenses without having to sell your home or go into debt. Your house should enhance your retirement, not constrain it. 4. Passive income versus home appreciation. Here's something that trips up a lot of people planning for retirement. They're betting their financial future on their house going up in value. But house appreciation doesn't pay the electric bill. You can't eat equity, and you can't buy groceries with rising property values. Think about the frustration of watching your home value increase on paper while you're still stressed about monthly expenses. Your house might be worth $50,000 more than last year, but that doesn't help when you're facing a $3,000 car repair or trying to cover rising healthcare costs. The wealth is there, but it's not working for you day to day. Let me tell you about two water sources that served different villages. The deep well contained enormous reserves of pure water, enough to supply the entire region for years. Everyone was impressed by its depth and capacity. But here's the problem. Accessing that water required major effort, special equipment, and significant time whenever the village needed it. The active spring, on the other hand, provided a steady daily flow that consistently sustained village life. The total volume was smaller than the deep well, but it delivered fresh water every single day without any additional effort. The villagers could count on it for cooking, drinking, and daily needs, without worrying about complex extraction processes. Your investment portfolio works like that active spring. A $500,000 portfolio earning 4% annually gives you $20,000 in income every year. That's real money you can spend on actual expenses without selling anything or taking on debt. Your home appreciation works more like a deep well, potentially valuable, but requiring major decisions to access. Here's what you can do starting today. Calculate how much monthly passive income your current investments generate. Include dividends, interest, and any systematic withdrawals from retirement accounts. Then compare that to your monthly expenses. This shows you how close you are to having your investments cover your living costs. The mindset shift you need is this. Appreciation is nice, but cash flow is essential. A house that doubles in value over 20 years is great, but investments that pay you every month for 20 years can transform your daily life. You don't have to choose between them, but don't mistake rising property values for financial independence. Real freedom comes when your assets generate enough income to support your lifestyle without having to sell them. 5. Emergency response with liquid assets. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, and that's when you discover whether your wealth is actually useful or just impressive on paper. A job loss, medical emergency, or unexpected opportunity can reveal the difference between having money and having access to money. You know this anxiety when something urgent comes up and you start calculating. Do I have enough in checking? Can I cover this without going into debt? How long would it take to get cash if I really needed it? It's stressful to have substantial net worth, but still worry about immediate expenses. Let me tell you about two business owners who handled their resources completely differently. The inventory-heavy miller had accumulated massive stores of grain worth a fortune. His warehouses were full, his business looked incredibly successful, and everyone knew he was wealthy. But when market opportunities arose, maybe a chance to buy prime land or invest in new equipment, he couldn't move quickly because his wealth was tied up in inventory that took time to convert to cash. The cash-ready trader kept smaller, more liquid inventory and maintained substantial cash reserves. His operation looked less impressive, but when opportunities knocked or emergencies hit, he could respond immediately. When the miller was still figuring out how to liquidate grain, the trader was already making deals and solving problems with actual money. This flexibility becomes crucial during real emergencies. Imagine facing a sudden job loss. Would you rather have $50,000 in a savings account or $50,000 in home equity? The savings account lets you cover expenses immediately while you figure out your next move. The home equity requires loans, paperwork, and potentially debt, just when your income has disappeared. Here's something practical you can do this week. Calculate your emergency response fund, money you could access within 72 hours without selling major assets or taking on debt. Financial experts often recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses, but even 1 month gives you breathing room during crises. The mindset shift you need is this: liquid assets aren't just sitting there doing nothing. They're providing insurance and opportunity. That cash in your savings account gives you the freedom to handle emergencies without panic, and the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities that require quick action. It's not lazy money. It's working money that keeps your options open when life gets complicated. 6. Building liquid wealth strategies. Building liquid wealth feels overwhelming when you think about needing hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's the truth that most people miss. You don't need a massive windfall to get started. Small, consistent actions compound into substantial results over time. But our instant gratification culture makes this hard to believe. You've probably felt this doubt yourself. Looking at your modest monthly contributions and thinking, what's the point? Saving $200 a month will never make me wealthy. It's discouraging when your progress feels invisible compared to the massive numbers you think you need for financial freedom. Let me tell you about 2 scholars pursuing knowledge in completely different ways. The library builder believed that true wisdom required accumulating an impressive collection of expensive books and rare manuscripts. He'd save up for months to buy beautiful, leather-bound volumes that looked spectacular on his shelves. His collection was impressive and drew admiration from visitors. The skill developer took a different approach. Instead of buying expensive books, he invested small amounts regularly in practical learning workshops, courses, and experiences that built real capabilities. His approach looked less impressive, but every month he was developing skills that could generate income and solve problems. Over time, the library builder had beautiful shelves but limited practical abilities. The skill developer had modest-looking resources but substantial earning capacity and real-world knowledge that served him throughout his career. Your liquid wealth building works the same way. Contributing $100 monthly to a Roth IRA doesn't feel impressive, but over 30 years at 7% returns, that becomes about $300,000. Adding employer 401k matching can easily double that. The key isn't dramatic contributions, it's consistency and time. Here's what you can do this week. If you're not already contributing to retirement accounts, start with whatever amount feels manageable. Even $25 per month is better than zero. If you are contributing, consider increasing it by just 1% of your income. You probably won't notice the difference in your paycheck, but it adds up significantly over time. The mindset shift you need is this. Building liquid wealth isn't about having a lot of money to invest. It's about developing the habit of systematic investing. Small amounts invested consistently over decades beat large amounts invested sporadically. The compound growth happens in the background while you focus on living your life, and eventually the results become impossible to ignore. 7. True financial freedom definition. Here's where a lot of people get their financial strategy completely wrong. They think they have to choose between building wealth in their home or building liquid assets, when the real answer is finding the right balance between both. Putting all your wealth in one place, even a good place, can leave you vulnerable and inflexible. You've probably felt this pressure to pick sides. Financial advice often sounds like, real estate is the best investment, or stocks always beat real estate, or your house isn't an investment. But here's the reality. Your financial security depends on having both accessible money for immediate needs and long-term assets that grow over time. Let me tell you about 2 military commanders who approached defense completely differently. The single fortress commander concentrated all his resources into building one massive, impressive fortification. It was incredibly strong, and everyone admired its size and defenses. But when threats emerged from different directions or opportunities arose elsewhere, he couldn't respond because everything was locked into that one position. The multi-resource general maintained diversified assets. Some troops in permanent fortifications, others mobile and ready to deploy, plus reserves that could be quickly redirected based on changing circumstances. His setup looked less impressive than the single fortress, but he could respond to threats and opportunities from any direction. Your wealth works the same way. Having your home paid off provides security and stability. That's your fortress. But you also need liquid investments that can handle emergencies, take advantage of opportunities, and generate income during retirement. Neither strategy alone gives you complete financial security. Here's something practical you can do. Aim for what financial planners call the balanced approach. Try to have 6 to 12 months of expenses in accessible savings. Contribute consistently to retirement accounts, and if you want to own a home, buy something you can comfortably afford without stretching your budget. The mindset shift you need is this. Financial freedom isn't about choosing the perfect investment or finding the one secret strategy. It's about building multiple types of wealth that work together. Your emergency fund handles short-term crises. Your retirement accounts grow for the future. Your home provides stability and potential long-term appreciation. When you have all three working together, you're prepared for whatever life throws at you, and you can make decisions based on what's best for you, rather than what's possible given your limited options. These 7 principles reveal why 24 million Americans are millionaires on paper, but only 9 million have real liquid wealth access. The gap isn't about failure. It's about understanding how different types of wealth serve different purposes in your financial life. Both liquid and illiquid assets matter. Your home provides stability and potential long-term growth, while accessible investments give you flexibility and peace of mind. You don't need to choose between them. You need both working together based on your individual circumstances. Building substantial liquid wealth takes decades of consistent effort, not quick fixes or dramatic portfolio changes. The goal isn't to panic about your current situation, but to gradually build more balance between accessible money and long-term assets. Start where you are and focus on small, sustainable improvements rather than major life changes that could create financial stress. How do you balance liquid and illiquid wealth in your financial planning? What's worked best for your circumstances? Share your experience below and subscribe for more practical financial insights that prioritize both security and flexibility.